Welcome to section 2, collect requirements. In this section, we'll delve into the collect requirements process, which is a crucial step in defining and documenting the project scope. Collecting requirements involve gathering and understanding the needs and expectations of stakeholders. By the end of this section, you should be able to understand the purpose of collect requirements, identify the inputs, tools and techniques and outputs of this process, recognize the significance of effective requirements gathering in project success. Okay, so what is the purpose of collecting requirements in project scope management? Let's see how it goes. Let's take a look. Purpose of collect requirements. The collect requirements process focuses on identifying and documenting the specific needs, constraints, and expectations of project stakeholders. Can you see that? So it's all about identifying and documenting the needs of our stakeholders and their expectations, as well as the challenges, whatever constraints, limitations that they may be having as far as the project we're handling is concerned. So you can see it's a very critical aspect of our project management, collecting requirements. This is vital for ensuring that the project delivers the desired outcomes. Okay? If we are unconnected with the desires, the needs, and the expectations of our stakeholders, we will not have the right outcomes at the end of the day, because whatever outcome, whatever objective that we're trying to create with this project, it has to be what the stakeholders need. It has to be able to solve a particular problem for the stakeholders or the customer or the end users. All right, so this is very important. Now let's look at the inputs in collect requirements. Collect requirements inputs. First is the project management plan. It provides guidance on how requirements will be managed and documented within the project. So while we're drawing up our plans, okay, it has to be included there how we plan to actually manage our requirements. All right. Next is the project charter. This contains high-level requirements or needs of the project. Okay. Next is the stakeholder register. This helps in identifying and categorizing stakeholders who have requirements. Okay, very interesting. Requirements management plan describes how requirements will be analyzed, documented, and managed. Okay. Stakeholder engagement plan. This outlines the strategy for engaging stakeholders effectively. This is very important. Enterprise environmental factors. These external factors that can influence requirement settings. Okay, so in a nutshell, those are the inputs that you have when it comes to collecting requirements in your project scope management. And lastly, we have organizational process assets. These include existing templates and procedures for gathering and documenting requirements. Okay, so this is what makes up the input in the collect requirement process. Now let's move on to the tools and techniques. Okay, so here we are. Now, what are the tools and techniques that project managers use when it comes to collecting requirements? First is interviews. These include direct discussions with stakeholders to elicit requirements. Okay? So like I mentioned before, you're going to have discussions, with the several or the various stakeholders, so you can actually know what exactly their requirements are, or their expectations are, or what are their needs, okay, which will be addressed using the project at hand. Focus groups. These are group discussions to gather collective insight and requirements. Okay. Brainstorming, encouraging stakeholders to generate ideas and requirements. Surveys and questionnaires, collecting structured information from stakeholders. Observations, actively observing stakeholder actions and needs. Okay. Prototypes. This includes creating models to help stakeholders visualize and define requirements. Okay, so you can create the prototype of the particular project you want to do, and of course present it to the stakeholders in order to give them a visual definition or visual expression of what you're talking about. Okay. So what outputs do we have in the collect requirements process? First is the requirements documentation. This is a comprehensive record of gathered requirements. Requirements traceability matrix links requirements to their origin and tracks changes. Okay. Requirements baseline. This includes approved requirements that serve as a basis for project work. Okay. So what are the key takeaways from the collect requirements process? Firstly, the purpose of the collect requirements is the process of gathering and documenting detailed stakeholder needs and expectations. So the purpose of the collect requirements is the process of gathering and documenting detailed stakeholder needs and expectations to define the project scope effectively. Inputs include the project management plan, stakeholder register, project charter, and organizational process assets. The tools and techniques. This involves techniques like interviews, surveys, brainstorming, and group activity techniques. These are used to elicit and gather requirements effectively. Output. The primary output is the requirement documentation, which includes a detailed list of project requirements. This documentation is used as a basis for scope definition and project planning. Stakeholder engagement involves engaging stakeholders in crucial stakeholder engagement. Engaging stakeholders is crucial during this process, as their insights and expectations are vital for defining project requirements accurately. Iterative process. Collecting requirements is often an iterative process, as new information and insights may emerge as the project progresses. And then clear and measurable. Requirements should be clear, unambiguous, and measurable to ensure successful project delivery. Alright, so that will be all for this section, the collect requirements. Thank you. See you in the next section.